powered by Alienware.
Horror games have long been a staple of the industry. Modern technology allows the player to immerse themselves into the creepy world they are playing. However, that was not always the case. In the early days of video games, developers had to get creative to instill the sense of horror and suspense in players. This is Andrew from Curse, and today we're taking a look at creepy retro Nintendo games. Sweet Home was likely the first survival horror game on consoles, released in 1989 after a movie of the same name for the Japanese NES known as the Famicom. Essentially a predecessor to the Resident Evil series, this RPG focused on life preservation and item management. The writer and director of the movie, Kiyoshi Kurosawa, also supervised the game's creation. Like the movie, there are 5 characters sent to a haunted mansion owned by a deceased artist, sent there to create a documentary of his latest fresco. Each character must maneuver their way through this eerie house while carrying a specific ability that allows the group to proceed. The plot is provided through diary entries and messages hidden in paintings. Even though the mansion is huge, the players cannot help feeling claustrophobic in some of the rooms. The feeling of dread never leaves you as you navigate your way through some of the dark rooms using only a candle. Death is permanent, and since creatures and monsters are everywhere, a player must play cautiously, conserving tonics as much as possible. Defeated creatures don't provide any item drops, so the rooms must be searched in order to survive. Way ahead of its time, Sweet Home's innovations can still be seen today in modern thrillers. The game Uninvited was originally a port of a computer game to the NES with several changes. Today's gamers may have a hard time believing something that looked like this could be considered creepy. The minimalistic approach intentionally drives imagination, and the sense of foreboding will quickly become apparent. After the main character wakes up from a car crash near a mansion, their sister goes missing and the car explodes once they exit. It's up to the player to navigate this point-and-click adventure. While exploring, the player will discover the house was owned by a sorcerer that had a number of pupils, one of which was corrupted and slaughtered the others with his magic. The undead and various creatures roam the halls, and one wrong move can end in death. Due to the use of magic, some of the puzzles might not seem logical, encouraging the player to experiment with everything and to search everywhere, exposing them to all of the dangers at the same time. Friday the 13th for the NES might scare you by just looking at the box. The dreaded LJN logo makes an appearance, but all jokes aside, the player will feel anxiety during key moments as it is based around the horror franchise. The player takes control of a number of camp counselors at Crystal Lake. Camp Crystal Lake is the same site where a young Jason Voorhees drowned because of the lack of attention from camp counselors many years ago, and he's back for revenge. The game is designed to make navigation intentionally confusing as the player desperately tries to keep counselors and children safe from harm. Bats, wolves, zombies, and Jason's mother's floating severed head are thrown in at them as obstacles. The player is always pressured to quickly find and fend off Jason whenever an audible warning signal is given, and he can appear from anywhere. Like the movies, he seems to be nearly unstoppable and has a huge health pool. Dodging and attacking him whenever possible, if a player depletes Jason's health completely, he will come back to life even stronger and faster. The sense of urgency never lets up. Naturally, we cannot move on from the NES without mentioning the Castlevania series, and our pick for the creepiest is Castlevania 2: Simon's Quest. In the series, the player fights their way through various areas of Dracula's castle, taking on the many creatures of the night, like animated skeletons, werewolves, floating eyeballs, bats, and so on. Unlike Castlevania 1 and 3, Castlevania 2: Simon's Quest is non-linear, and initially it can seem a bit daunting. Some of the townsfolk are sinister and will outright lie to you when giving hints. As a player attempts to navigate the various areas, the music will suddenly stop and night will fall. This mechanic makes the world darker and more ominous, as more creatures with additional hit points and damage output will appear. The townsfolk are also replaced by monsters, offering no respite. The character Simon is initially cursed to seek out Dracula's remaining severed body parts strewn throughout the world. And with hanging bodies, false walls, and spiked floors, it's no wonder it can all end up to be a creepy experience. Out of This World for the Super Nintendo features a young physicist named Lester. One night, as Lester is working in his lab on a particle accelerator, a lightning bolt strikes and sends him to another planet. Shortly after arriving, the main character is chased by a huge animalistic creature and saved by a group of aliens. The nightmare is just beginning, as the aliens knock him unconscious and imprison him. This dark and foreboding world is devoid of any intelligible language. However, the player can escape with his cellmate and grab an energy pistol from a guard. Tentacles will try to grab Lester from the ceiling, and the floor can hide creatures that will want to eat you. One false move or missed opportunity will result in death, so it's up to the player to make use of their wit to journey through this crumbling nightmare. A lesser-known survival horror RPG for the SNES is called La Place No Ma. Like Sweet Home, the player must travel through a haunted location, in this case, Weathertop Manor. A number of children were found murdered near the manor, and some explorers have gone missing after searching for a lost girl. The main character's choices are classified as a private investigator, a stuck-up dilettante, a geeky scientist, a psychic, and a journalist. Exploring the game world will reveal more of what happened, and the creepy factor will set in. Carrying a small light, the player will run into a number of ghouls, hideous creatures, and sinister characters. The story will reveal what might have caused Benedict Weathertop, the owner, to start dabbling in black magic. His twisted, sick mind led him to kill his parents, and now they haunt the building, begging for the player's help to free their tormented existence. Well, that wraps up a look at some creepy retro Nintendo games. I'd love to know your thoughts on these titles down below in the comments. And if there are any games you could recommend for fans of Dark and Mysterious, let us know as well. This has been Andrew from Curse saying thanks for watching and enjoy the game.
Something is coming. Do you have what it takes to be a pro gamer? And are you ready to take your skills to the next level and win cool prizes? Visit thelab.gg to find out more.